the biggest global exclusive. For the first time on world television, Russian President Vladimir Putin speaks his mind only on India today, uncensored, unrestrained, and unfiltered in a candid 100-minute chat. The full interview airs tonight at 9 p.m. During the interview and ahead of his India visit, President Putin said Russia wants a full withdrawal of troops to end the Ukraine war. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump called his envoy's Moscow meeting with Putin reasonably good, but admitted it's unclear what follows. Trump said Russia very strongly wants a deal though. As he put it, it takes two to tango.
What is the end game for Vladimir Putin in Ukraine?
Так я же сказал.
Well, I've just said it.
Мы признали вот эти.
We have recognized, listen,
Мы 8 лет не
for
признавали
8 years we did not recognize
самопровозглашенных
the self-declared republics.
лет.
For 8 years
провозгласили
they
независимость.
have declared the
А мы
independence.
старались наладить
And we were
отношения
trying
с остальной частью
To build
Украины.
relations between the rest of Ukraine
Потом,
and
когда
these
поняли, что
republics.
это невозможно,
When
что
we
их просто уничтожают,
Understood that it's
вынуждены
impossible,
были
that they're simply
признать
being destroyed, we were
Причем не
forced to
просто
recognize
признать
them and not simply
в части территории,
recognize them in,
а в
as a
рамках
partial territory,
административных
but within
границ,
administrative
когда они
borders
существовали еще в
when they
советское
existed
время,
back in the Soviet times.
а потом во времена независимой
And later,
Украины,
during the times of the independent Ukraine,
обретения
after
независимости,
it gained
в рамках
independence,
административных границ.
in the
И мы сразу Украине
administrative
сказали,
limits,
украинским войскам, люди не
lines.
хотят с вами жить. Они вышли на референдум, проголосовали
So
за
the
независимость.
people, the voters,
Выведите свои
came to
войска.
the referendum
И никаких
and voted
военных
for
действий.
everyone to withdraw troops
Нет,
from there and not to
они
conduct
предпочитают
any armed
воевать. Ну, вот чем
actions there.
договорились.
But they preferred to
В принципе,
wage war. And now
всё к
it
этому
all came to a head. And it all comes to one thing.
вооруженным путем освободить
Either we do that
эти территории,
through
либо украинские
military
войска
action will liberate the territories, or the Ukrainian troops will withdraw and leave these territories and stop killing people there.
Just talking about sustainability and trade, there's immense pressure on India and on Russia. When it comes to oil, India has suffered in terms of the kind of pressure that we're seeing from West. How can both countries handle this Western pressure and sanctions?
India Today Group Editor-in-Chief Aroon Purie and Executive Editor-in-Chief Kalli spoke to Anjana, Kashyap and Geeta Mohan after their Kremlin interview with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Listen in.
The leadership of India today, who were here, who traveled all the way to Moscow. We are here at the Ekaterina Hall. This is a historic hall. President Putin holds his National Council meetings here. He decorates people here. And now the decorated members of India Today Group, the group, are here. How did it feel, Kalli?
We're on such an adrenaline high, watching the two of you on air in a monitor. It was just amazing. You were the two women who interviewed him for the first time. He hasn't been interviewed by two women anchors, so that's a first. And I thought that the interview was very global in its perspective. We didn't just stick to our own problem of India and relations between India and Russia, but you widen the perspective on what President Putin brings to the global stage. And I think that really was a coming out ball, let's say, for an Indian media house to be talking about global issues, because why should we be left behind? We are on the global stage to be taking part and be invited to this high table. And I think the two of you really did a fantastic job today.
एग्जीक्यूटिव एडिटर इन चीफ कली पुरी ये मानती हैं कि ये बहुत बड़ी कामयाबी है हमारे लिए कि हमने हर सवाल हर मुद्दे पर भारत नहीं, रूस यूक्रेन नहीं, पूरे विश्व में हर देश पर बातचीत की. अब हमारे साथ हमारे एडिटर इन चीफ अरुण पुरी हैं. आपके लिए क्या हाईलाइट था?
Firstly, it was a very important moment for the India Today Group to get this interview. So I'm really proud of both of you who did the interview and the rest of the team who put it all together. I think it was a wonderful way, the way the interview was conducted. Also, for me, seeing Putin, meeting him personally, etc., he's been painted as a kind of villain of the world order in many ways, right? And the changing world order. And he came across as somebody who answered every one of your questions. He didn't duck anything, right? And that was an experience to see that here is a man who was painted in a certain way, but came across completely differently as somebody who would be ready to, has his own view of history, his own view of looking at the world, but he was very clear on what he wanted to say. And that was a great impression.
A moment of pride, Kalli, because
I think one of the things was, you know, around any world leader, the team is very strict about protocol and about the amount of time you can spend with the leader. And they were very clear that you have 60 minutes. But because the president was enjoying the conversation so much, he was smiling and he was so charmed and he liked the questions, the interview ran for 100 minutes. And even afterwards, he was very open to engage with us in an informal conversation. I think that that was a testament to the interviewing ability of the two of you and, of course, the rest of the team and the entire research that worked behind. I want to add to this that we were selected amongst all of the Indian channels by the Russian press team. And they did that because of the impact that the India Today group brings for any big interview. And I'm very proud of that. And I think they felt happy that they had made the right choice. And that, again, is a good sort of way to end the year for us, right? We're like in December now, 20 days to end the year.
Mr. Purie, I think the most interesting part for me was to see him, see his sense of humor. That came as a surprise because everybody has always portrayed him as this villain of the West that you've...
or a very serious man.
You asked him a very interesting question as well.
Yes, I asked him, I had the opportunity to talk to him off camera, where I asked him, you've been a top leader for 25 years, over 25 years of Russia, and do you have any regrets? Would you do something any different? He kind of thought and, you know, kind of and awed, and he said, well, I think he's a man who doesn't want to admit mistakes. So he said, I'll never look back. So that was the end of that.
Arm-twisting methods that are being adopted, and I name it's America. How do you plan to circumvent all this? Will you pull back or push harder?
In a major global exclusive, we bring you an interview of unprecedented access and significance. For the first time on world television, Russian President Vladimir Putin speaks candidly and at length. The full interview airs tonight at 9 p.m. But we now present a brief excerpt in which President Putin comments on US President Donald Trump's tariff pressure tactics and efforts to exert leverage over India. In a clear and forceful message, President Putin underscores Russia's steadfast support for India and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In a pointed observation, he emphasizes that India is a major global power, not a former British colony, and cannot be addressed in the manner it might have been 77 years ago, and that Prime Minister Modi is not one to give in to pressure. Listen into this exclusive conversation my colleagues Geeta, Mohan and Anjana Kashyap had with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
But my question to you now would be about defense. And India continues to be the biggest defense buyer, roughly 38%. Of the market from Russia is bought by India. My question to you, sir, is in view of the sanctions by the US or the tariffs they have laid on India, the arm-twisting methods that are being adopted, and I name it's America. How do you plan to circumvent all this? Will you pull back or push harder?
Ну, мне кажется, что и Индия, весь мир увидели,
Well, I think both the world
Индией нельзя разговаривать
and
так,
India
не обращаясь
have seen that
7 лет
one
назад.
cannot talk to India the way they used to talk to it 77 years ago. India is a great power, not an English or British colony, and everyone will have to take that into account.
Индийского правительства
And moreover, the head of the Indian government, Prime Minister Modi, is not one to give in to pressure. The Indian nation can take pride in their Prime Minister. It's absolutely evident Prime Minister Modi has a firm position, which is not, however, confrontational, nor are we going to enter into confrontation with anyone. We are simply trying to defend our legitimate interests, and that is exactly what India is doing. What are the obstacles? There's transactions and payments, but more than 90% of our transactions are carried out in national currencies. There are certain difficulties, of course, because there are intermediaries, but there are solutions to that, because we can transition to using the systems for financial messaging systems, which we have offered by the Bank of Russia and our Indian counterparts. And we are doing this work
те, кто предпринимает
steadily. And those who are taking steps to limit
в конечном итоге сами
the economic cooperation of third parties sooner or later will incur losses. And I think once this understanding settles in completely and fully, then
эта практика
this practice of pressure from outside is gone.
Geeta, Mohan and Anjana Kashyap brought you this mega world exclusive interview of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Listen to them speak about their experience of interviewing him.
This is the big India Today Global Exclusive. We are here in Moscow after the biggest interview of the decade when it comes to interviewing a world leader. Anjana and I had the opportunity, the rare opportunity of interviewing President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. Anjana, how did it feel? We walked down the Kremlin corridors. We were in the historic Ekaterina Hall, and that's where that interview took place.
It was absolutely great, Geeta. The best part about this entire interview was what we have read, thought, or learned about Putin was actually a little different from what he came across as. I think that is the biggest thing, and that is why it is said that you cannot understand the world from the bubble of a news studio. When you're out in the field, you interact with leaders, you see the people, you see their adulation for him, you realize the leader and the reason behind his leadership and popularity. So I think that was the biggest takeaway for me, Geeta. Ek second. Sense of humor.
Yeah.
We had to talk about his sense of humor. He's like, you want to, what was that question you asked? You want to fly on the wall.
I want to be a fly on the wall in the Jared Kushner-Witkoff meeting, and he said,
no, you wouldn't want that.
you wouldn't want that.
Very boring.
You would have been bored because I was. That's what he said, because I was. He was bored.
And then I said, you were not just with Witkoff. You were with Trump's son-in-law also, Jared Kushner. He said, yeah, two. And I was one.
Yeah, imagine. That was fun.
Yeah.
But, you know, Anjana, the fact that there are a lot of protocols when we look at various meetings and interviews that you do. But the fact is that over here, this was a no-holds-barred interview. The protocol was only that where we should sit, how the president is going to come, not what we are going to ask or what the president is going to say. We asked him anything and everything. We counter-questioned him.
Straight question on China. Like, how do you balance India and China? Because we have border tensions with China, and you're talking of a system which is kind of challenges the Western world order that exists today, the Western powers, the G8 conglomerates, all that. So he was, which is G7 now, he was clear and he talked about it, but we're not giving away the answers.
We're not, because at 9 p.m., India Today Global, as also India Today and Aaj Tak, are going to air the interview simultaneously. Stay tuned for all our global watchers, for all our India Today watchers and Aaj Tak watchers. This is the moment you shouldn't be missing. We've shown you snippets, a few of what he said. It's the most interesting interview because, like I said, we asked him everything. I asked him about how in eastern Ukraine, when I was traveling, people were very upset because they're all Russian speakers. They are all have families in Russia, and they were heartbroken, not just about the fact that they've been attacked, that how could Putin do it? And then he spoke about Kyiv's role, the fact that the strategic issues there. He did not flinch in responding to that very pertinent question. On G8, he spoke, and later, Anjana, he also said that attitudinal change.
Geeta?
Yeah.
The question Geeta asked was, you want to make it back to the G8, and there are stories about it. Wear this, it's cold. So we can both wear one and feel a little warm. He said, no, I don't want to be part of G8 again. So it was clear, he is looking for respect. He's not going to be rubbed around here or pushed around here and there.
And in the very same thing, he actually spoke about the fact that India is a force to reckon with. If India is not going to be part of these, and he said, if India is not going to be a part of it, then why should any country be following this? He did speak about the alternatives that you spoke about, alternative systems, SCO, BRICS, all of that, and the answers are really interesting because she actually spoke about terrorism, and his response was crisp, succinct, but direct. He also spoke about the Taliban and recognizing the Taliban. That was a very interesting answer.
It was very nicely placed.